Hello, everybody. Dadman Walking 55 coming to you live along with Alaska Jeff. Jeff, I didn't. Sorry.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, normally
I had to get a little bit more water before starting.
I'm sorry. I should have had anyway. But anyway, I missed this. This is where I love the Saturday night intro, watching you rock out to that song "Animated." But yeah, it's oh. But dude, we are live now. We don't have an agenda. Well, we have an agenda. We don't have a necessarily a time frame tonight. So, folks, if you have ideas, thoughts, please share them. We'll get to them as we can. Big topic tonight: continuation of a previous stream with the death of storytelling, and specifically, we're going to take a time and looking specifically about Disney and Star Wars and how that's gone. I'm seeing some faces popping up in the chat that this is going to be right up their alley, and I think we're going to have a great stream. Jeff and Jeff will, what we did last time. Jeff will kind of take a lead on it, present what he wants to do, and then we'll start peppering him with questions and trying to rip down his thesis and make him defend it like it's a doctoral defense. But hey, great to see you, Jeff. How are you doing tonight, by the way?
Been faring well. Glad to actually be able to do this with since we had to cancel it twice. So
yeah, life has gotten the last month. It's been crazy on a lot of people, I think. And your work schedule there for a while, you were getting you didn't know if you were going to be able to leave work some nights.
Yeah, that was quite the conundrum. And so now things seem to be working out for the better, because this gave me a chance to really think through some of the stuff a little bit more and do a couple of iterations. So you'll get probably a better presentation now as a result.
All right, well, that's good.
Hopefully.
What is it, about 250 slides?
No, not quite now, but okay. A lot of it got trimmed back, which is for your guys' benefit, because you don't want to be death by a slideshow.
Oh, there you go.
And well, so sometimes we are still going to cover a lot of territory, but we might not get to all of it, of course, because this stuff could go on for a very long time, because the problem is so very complex. Trying to consolidate it into one stream, let alone two, doesn't necessarily work. You have to kind of attack different elements of what went wrong. Right. Kind of like how we are not going to be touching on it, but acting was very bad in a lot of Disney products. A lot of Star Wars products as a whole have.
What, you didn't like Padme? You didn't like 14-year-old Padme and Natalie Portman? I care for you. I'm sorry, but anyway. Well, Jeff, if we did it based on time and where you see, feel free to figure out a good stopping point. If we have to do a third or fourth, we'll do that. Like I said, we have no limit. We are going to go. Let's go ahead and start by saying hello to everybody in the chat. The tweet is out. Make sure folks take that tweet, share it out, because I will tell you that the tweet is a little bit different tonight. It's not the one the missus had made. Jeff had actually made a special thumbnail for the stream, and if you see it on Twitter, you can see what Jeff did. Please share out the stream, the link, and let's see what we can do. I'm only 23 away. I was at 778, but now I'm at 777. So we're back to 23 away from 800, maybe one day. But hey, Dave is here. Follow Dave. Welcome. There we go. Here's this. Thank you, Jeff. There you go. Right there. I like the Google eyes on Baby Grogu.
Oh, and I have an obsession with Google eyes, as you can tell in this scene.
Okay. Before we go to the rest of the chat, what the heck with the Google eyes? And then, Darth Maul doesn't have Google eyes, but you do. Why am I angry? And why am I angry? I guess I'm going to rant.
It's probably because you see Darth Maul over there, and you're like, what the heck?
Oh, either that or Ray. One or the other.
I like trying to do goofy things to characters, but, having mechanical legs for somebody that's cut in half is already goofy enough.
I look at, what's that coinage gold in front of you?
Yes, those are Those are Hecats. So the currency that the Hutts use.
Oh, okay. Not the Republic credits. Okay,
So
gotcha.
you see Imperial credits in Grogu's hand. So it's there's actually like a really cool lore element behind those things, but nobody's ever really explored it. I was going to make a video about it a couple of years ago, and it just became too complex, so I had to shelve it.
Wow. Well, hey, good ideas. Look good. Of course, you got the Force Awakens, and then the last dumpage, the Last Jedi up there. Just that movie, that the movie that is, well, and we'll hit it more on later. That truly is the movie that I think virtually everybody agrees is the downfall of Star Wars. It started with Force Awakens, but it really hit it with Last Jedi, and we will talk more about that. But I love this. This was great. And of course, you got Maul front and center. We're going to talk about him, folks. So, but no, Dave, you don't have to send me the Darth Maul memes and that stuff. Jeff already did that on Twitter yesterday, if you saw. But Dave, great to see you. Legatus Legionize, you're here. Great to see you tonight too, Legatus. Buddy Hepburn, great to see you. See Gap After Dark. Gap, how after you? How after that? Hey, how are you doing, Gap? Good to see you too. And Jess, wonderful to see you tonight. And a future note that we may be moving our duos with Jess to Friday nights down the road. Mondays for the foreseeable future are going to be a lot more difficult, I think, with life commitments here. But by all the way, July 10th, it'll be 3 days after, but we will have a special fortnight stream with Jess and me to celebrate her birthday. Yay, Jess. Happy birthday. Soon. And you know, it's not yet June, but we can celebrate it now. And yes, stunning. Darth Maul is dead. DED. Yes, once and forever. Let's see. Ahsoka's not. See, well, we can get into that. We can talk about that as things go.
We're going to be going over Ahsoka.
Well, I'm sorry for bad language, but I call her Ass-Oka sometimes. Just there's the slant. And again, Stunning calls Disney still bantha butt cheeks. Oh, God. Oi. And Mrs. Hello, Mrs. Great to see you tonight. How are you? Well, I just saw you a minute ago. I did bring her dinner. I do have a funny story, though. As she came by, and she's like, if you want to eat before your stream, you better go get it something and bring it back. And I'm like, okay, just for me? And she looked at me like, what the heck? Like, you didn't just say that. I'm like, she just turned around and walked out. So I did bring food back for everybody. Yeah. Teenage delinquent. Oh my gosh. Wow. Padme. Yeah. Oh, Jess said that was fun watching him make it last night. Oh, did you make the thumbnail on your stream last night?
So last night I was doing testing for audio, and then I was like, well, I kind of want to stream something. I went over to Fortnite, and it needed updating. So I'm like, well, I can't do that. Yep. I thought, well, how about I just kind of do some artwork? And then I thought, oh, I'll kind of tinker around and try and make some sort of image for the slide cover for what was going on. I thought, oh, I'll just send this over to Dadman for the sake of it.
I had to bring up a couple because Gap is saying, didn't Grogu choke on a chicken nugget? Look at those eyes. Stunning says, get Darth Maul a diaper. That would be cool to put on there. Yeah, the Farts Awaken. Oh, the Farts Awaken, the last porta potty. Oh gosh, you guys are great, man. I know. My. Yep, and then started in 2008. Filoni came around in the Clone Wars. Yep, we can trace a lot of back. Yeah, I know. Not yet June. I meant not yet July. Damn it! Come on, Jess. Man, it's like she's on every word I say. But oh gosh, Buddy Hepburn, Ahsoka the Tube Top, Ahsoka the Gray, and Ahsoka the White. Yeah. Okay.
Ahsoka's
well, Jeff,
a very unique character in the sense of that it seems to have destroyed. Well, it was the first time where you really saw a hard line in the fandom. Like there was a group that was off on their own, and then Ahsoka came along, and that group just went overboard.
As fans or anti-Ahsoka?
As being either for the original Lucasfilms or for
Okay.
everything else.
Well, because I remember those times before the dark times. It just like everybody loved Ahsoka and didn't question her or anything, and I had more of a I'm not really sold on this character, but what they could do with her, I think they could have. I think it could have worked, but they almost shoved her in there where it didn't fit. Anakin suddenly has a Padawan, and then I don't know. I just it's just kind of like, why did they even try this? And it became, because also most other stories, the Padawans are the back seats. Like Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan Kenobi was there. He was a Padawan, and he was involved in the movie. But who was the focus? Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon found Anakin. Qui-Gon fought Darth Maul initially. Qui-Gon was talking to the Queen. Obi-Wan was just in the background. Ahsoka comes up and she's like running the whole show over everybody. And that's, to me, one of the things that got annoying with her, and that I think a lot of people got annoyed with her very, very early in the process, because she just got shoved in and was like a lead character. She didn't really get introduced and warmed up. But I know I'm going on a rampage right now, Jeff. But what about Buddy said here, most people hated Ahsoka from the 2008 Star Wars Clone Wars animated film. Okay. Well, Jeff, I don't know if you want
directly to change George Lucas's direction for the story, and so we'll we'll have to dive into her, because she is a unique.
Okay. Problem. Well, do you want to do that now, or do you want to start with where you want to start, and we will get to that in due course?
Let's start with the basics, and then we'll go on to that, because we are going to have to address her in terms of the series that she was a part of.
Yeah. Let's get a couple of these real quick. Qui-Gon destroyed the Jedi Order in the Republic. I don't necessarily think that's fair. I think there's a lot of other parts moving on without Qui-Gon Jinn, because the Master Sifo-Dyas was starting the clone army and other things that they had. There was a lot going on. Buddy said, I think one of the worst things they introduced was a world between worlds. Yeah, that whole thing really messed a lot of stuff up. I mean, you know how bad, like when you start talking to Star Trek people about time travel and stuff like that, anybody is like, oh gosh, time travel is just crazy. So, and then Stunning said, yeah, that movie from the get-go caused a big continuity issue, because in the old EU, Anakin was knighted halfway through the Clone Wars as shown in 2003, which is the Tchaikovsky. I want to say Tchaikovsky, but that's not the right name. It's a Slavic name, but Tartarovsky or something. Yeah, that one was well received and recognized as the better one. And then Stein said in the 2008 cartoon, changed it to where Anakin was knighted shortly after the attack of the clones. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff now. I will periodically throw in questions as we have, or as the chat. I will start questions and stuff. And Jeff, if there's times that you want to ask questions, go ahead, throw it out. But you have the con, sir.
Alrighty. So first, I'm going to give you all a little bit of a short little bit of a refresher. So you remember from the previous time we went over what made a good story. There was a list that I gave, and some people would probably disagree with that list, but based upon my own observations, that list was set up as best as I could understand based upon the films that I had seen, the books I had read, things like that. When you got a chance, could you bring up the shared screen?
Yep, there you go.
There we go. All right, so this time around, though, we're going to be primarily going over how this affected Star Wars. And I do think that this is not where everything went wrong. I think this was just the most clear example, because it had such a big fandom that got upset. So for starters, when people first saw...
Oh my God. Sorry, Jeff. I mean... Oh gosh, folks. That's what I was talking about, Jeff and his... Or well, the banana. Okay, go ahead, Jeff. Oh, I'm starting to ripen. I got brown spots on me. Well,
bad Star Wars. Brown spot on your avatar?
Oh man, not a football, but not like I'm turning. Oh, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
um, when The Force Awakens first came out, it left a very strange taste in my mouth, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Everyone was praising it. It's like, oh, The Force Awakens, so great. It's like the original Star Wars, that sort of excitement, and everyone was speaking highly of it. And I was just left with visually it looked good, but there's something off. And it took me a while to really realize what was happening. It wasn't until The Last Jedi came out that I was like, oh, this is what was going wrong. And that had to do with that the story itself was rotted from the core. People have been complaining about Star Wars for decades at this point. Even back to the prequels, people were complaining. A lot of the complaints, though, many times was based upon like, oh, I didn't like how that character was interacting. Oh, Jar Jar Binks. Oh, what a terrible addition. It was kind of superficial. But when you ask people, what did you think about the story? They say, oh, it was a great story. It was fascinating. What do you think about the worlds and the action sequences? Oh, that was great. And for the most part, you would get people that said it was good. And you had a couple of people that were on the outliers that said it was bad. Disney made us realize, no, this is something very different. It became a unifying element of that we can tell something is off. And what ended up happening is over the last decade, each product that has come out, there's something that would cause people to say, that was the tipping point for me. For me, it was The Force Awakens. For a lot of people, it was The Last Jedi. But there were other products as well that would come out that people are like, okay, I'm ready to move on. Mm-hmm. And that has been a 15-year process. And we finally hit like a tipping point for the company.
Can I add in here real quick?
Absolutely.
Let me say hello to
By the way, just a reminder, you can cut me off whenever you want.
Okay, all right. You get to go in so well that I hate to break the flow, but greetings to you, Sashi. And folks, if I recognize you slowly, it's because I'm trying to not cut him off. But Sashi said Disney did the hold my beer. I've got some of these starred for later, but one I wanted to get right here is because of this particular slide. Stunning's comment: the Force is female except for RJ, Darth Talon, Jaina. I mean, everybody knew there were female characters, and the reason why and I don't want to throw you out, but I see the character of the Force is female. That was a big Kathleen Kennedy thing of all this. Is this also before? Because that, I believe, came out. Didn't it come out before the Force Awakens? I mean, it preceded the movies, or it was around that time?
It was in the talks from the very beginning. I do not believe they started promoting it until The Force Awakens came out. Okay. But it was already there, and it goes back to Disney itself, not just Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's another thing, too. I think people really simplify it to blame one person. But, I mean, she became a lightning rod when the first things to any Star Wars fan is there was no source materials. Like, what? I mean, when you say stuff like that and then the Force is female, it's like you start to lose all credibility with the people that know and have invested time and money in this stuff, you know. But, yeah. I think Sashi was kind of like you. He said he had misgivings going to the Force Awakens because they announced they were putting the EU out in the airlock. So
I will say I am not a big fan of the EU.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of benign to it for the most part until I saw how a lot of things that Filoni was trying to add in technically had its roots in the EU. Not the same thing, of course, he changed it, but the problems existed. And so you have to have one storyteller, otherwise everything starts falling apart.
Right. And good evening, Southern Belle. Glad you're with us tonight. Hope you sit back, relax, have some sweet tea. And I'm not familiar with Claudia Gray. Do you know what the book she's talking about? Star Wars?
A little bit. I'm not going to try and pull that out of my memory banks, though.
Okay. All right. So, but welcome in, Southern Belle. Great to see you tonight. All right.
So one of the things that you will notice, though, with Disney is that they get a bad rep. I don't think that they are alone, though. Yes, Disney got Star Wars. Yes, they made the products. Yes, they've gotten the ridicule. Would it have been any different if another company got it? I doubt it, because the problems that are plaguing Disney have its roots much deeper than that. And I won't go back to the previous slides from the last time because, you know, I don't want to be trying to sort through these hundreds of slides that I have.
Yeah.
But it does have its roots back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the whole industry got turned on its head. And it just took a long time for it to be filtered out and for this new wave of creators to come in. And so now, if it had gone to Warner Brothers, you might have gotten 1 or 2 good films out. All the others would have been bad. Same thing if it went to Fox. Any of them, it would have been that case, because in 2005 to 2008 was when the whole industry finally got filtered out and we had a brand new Hollywood. We had a whole new set of writers, a whole bunch of new standards. It was all gone. So we have to just acknowledge that it's not just a Disney problem. This is an industry problem. That's why I believe that this change was going to be inevitable. And yes, I also do not believe the fans could make a good story. I have seen people try and make fan films. It's all about action, and it doesn't focus on narrative, because narrative is the thing that has destroyed this all. And it's the one thing that nobody seems to have an interest in wanting to do right, including the fans. And I know that there's some popular things like Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan, that extended sequence that they tried to put into episode 4. That is still just action. Like, in the end, people like it because, oh, it's cool. It doesn't add to the story. It doesn't change things in a positive way. It instead twists things in many ways. And so even though there are some fans out there that could tell a good story, many times they don't get acknowledged.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I've noticed too is that a lot of the fan fiction movies tend to be better. I mean, I've watched some. There's even one with Darth Maul. That was, I thought, very credible, very good. Well, these Jedi and apprentices crashing on a planet, and he was sent to train and eliminate them. But it happened before Phantom Menace. So when he completed the mission and killed them all, then we picked back up at Phantom Menace. He was moving on, not sticking him into, well, he magically survived and come back. It was in context, and it was really well done, I thought. And like I said, like you said, you have always, you said you're not a fan of the EU. I am a huge fan of it. But I have also said that if they just took the EU and took it as is, it wouldn't have worked for me. It would have been boring. Because, when you've read the books, you see this, you know what's going to happen. And that happened with the book, or John Grisham, The Pelican Brief. It was so much like the book. It was so boring. And that's where I don't think you can just take the EU by itself and say, oh, Star Wars is saved. You've got to do it right. You've got to have some artistic license. You've got to do something for the story tell itself. Because Stunning had a comment in here. Let me see where I get so with it too. Let's see if I can find it. This right here. This is the comment that I die on. This is the hill I die on with Star Wars. It's a Skywalker story. That's it. Once they eliminated and moved from the bloodline and the focus of Anakin and his descendants, it ceased to be Star Wars to me. Like he said, though, also you can do other things, like they had Tales from the Cantina, characters you saw in Star Wars. They all had some backstories. Tales of the Bounty Hunters. And I will tell you, I liked Mandalorian and Grogu as a movie. I really liked that, and we can get into that later if need be. but it goes to the point that you could tell a story in the Star Wars universe and it makes sense and it'd be enjoyable. Now, others may not like it, but I personally did. I thought it was a movie we should have got with Boba Fett, then I'd have been happier. Not some guy in a little Yoda wannabe, but but to the point is, once they took this initiative, put it there. But I agree with your point, though. I like the point, though, and I agree. Just because it's EU does not make it perfect, And because I think you got to, if you're going to tell a story for the masses too, you can't just stay there and talk above everybody's heads. They got to have a frame of reference, like expecting everybody to watch the Clone Wars and keep up with everything. I'm sorry if I talk too much. Go ahead. But it's just a point that I wanted to throw in there based on that.
No problem. By the way, that's part of what this is. It's a discussion.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And hey, Wes, by the way, good to see you.
Yeah, West. But this is one of the reasons why I think that even the fan films wouldn't have worked, because they're not narrative driven. They're more action driven. Mm-hmm. And if you were to focus more on the narrative, a lot of people would probably get a little bored with it when it's on the internet. Movies, they have a little bit more patience for, but YouTube videos, not so much. And so that's why I think that would have just made the problem still persist. But here's the thing that really troubles me.
Mm-hmm.
Companies have taken over rather than artisans and storytellers. Companies have replaced the artist's search for beauty and the storyteller's carefully crafted messages and turned it into an industry that's sole purpose is to make money, leading to the destruction of art and the death of storytelling. And I have good reason to believe that was the tipping point. It's because Walt Disney himself believed that artists needed kind of a safe place to create and thrive. That's when you would get the best products. He always was worried about money, but he wasn't worried about money in that he wanted to get rich. Golly, this guy ate beans and toast for most of his life just so his employees could get paid.
Mm-hmm.
It was his brother that would help to make sure that the company had money to operate in. And sometimes he would say, we need this, we need that. But for the most part, Disney kind of had free reign to explore and to make things as best as he could and to really develop the industry into what it is now. I'm not going to pretend that artists and storytellers should be working for free, nor should they be focused on money. If they have a meaningful product that they want to make, they should be making it regardless, because there's something behind them that is compelling them to do that.
Right.
Walt Disney was one of those people. If he could have done this for no money, he would have. And he would have, as long as he had the equipment and the place to build things up, he would have still been happy. It's a difference of values. Are you a crafter, or do you have a desire for money? Companies are the opposite of what an artist is. And so when you have the film industry, you're in this conflict. You need the people that need the money to keep the lights on, and you also have the people that you need to get that money from. But you can't squeeze them like it's a factory. Otherwise, they lose their artistic drive and the potency of what it is that they're making. It has to marinate. And if a company tries to just pull it out of them, it will fail. And over the 1900s, slowly but surely, we saw that creep in. Some companies went faster and they crashed very quickly. Disney persisted on making sure that their people were treated with respect and with dignity. And I think that is a big reason why their company succeeded when others failed. We have to understand that Disney himself believed very much that he wanted his products to be for the masses. He wanted everyone to have a chance to delight in it. That's one of the reasons why he kept costs down. That's why he didn't live in a mansion. Now, he did have a nice house, but he could have gotten a massive place. And instead he chose many times the simple things.
Mm-hmm.
Even things like eating the beans and toast, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you
when the
even look at
desire
this
for money
something.
is there, the industry dies, and
Well,
your
Jeff,
potential
one
crumbles.
thing that jumps out with me when we talk about Disney himself was the whole thing that the parks used to not have alcohol in it,
Mm,
something like that. And now look at it; they're taking stuff out and putting bars in the Grand Floridian and here and there and all this other stuff, contrary to the way he kept it simple and and affordable. And you look at the way the parks are being run now, where they still have the reservation system in, so they're limiting access, but charging a lot more money. So it really seems contrary to what Walt Disney would have been, is for entertainment, enjoyment for the masses, and just people could take their kids there. And it flows through all of the operation, from the parks to the artistic and other sides of the company.
exactly. And this
No,
chart right here shows a little bit of how things fell apart.
yeah,
Disneyland used to be a dollar. I
wow,
saw like a conversion for inflation. It would have been like $25 now, and that is not the case. So Disney saw money as a tool, and instead, companies see money as like the sole purpose of why they operate. But when Disney passed in 1966, you can see where the company really started to change. It maintained his legacy just a little bit, and then you can see
in
it started getting
1966. Wow, when did he pass away?
1966
Oh,
December,
okay, all right, okay,
and
thanks.
within so it kind of floated a little bit. They were trying to maintain his values, and then we
Yeah,
hit the 80s, and things
yeah,
start going up.
right. I do agree, buddy. Buddy is clarifying here. It might have been a cheap ticket, but you had to buy the ticket books. I remember the ticket books. Do you, Jeff?
Yes, but I was
Yes,
not there
yes.
for it, but I do remember reading about them.
Yeah, you had to buy your ticket. It was like a carnival or a fair where you had to buy your ride tickets and stuff.
Hmm.
That's where they made some of the money. But the point is, you could get in and enjoy the park, though. At least you could do anything but the rides, and you could go eat and things like that. Nowadays, it costs you whatever just to get in the door.
It was
Yeah,
also a lot cheaper food, whereas now
yeah.
one meal could be the equivalent of the park ticket,
Dude, and they
depending on
took
where you
everything
go.
out. I always loved Cosmic Rays Cafe with Sonny the Eclipse. Or is it Sonny Eclipse, the alien playing the organ there? My kids loved it, especially my oldest. And it was like all there. And now they had the toppings bar. I know my wife would get the onions, mushrooms, lettuce, tomato. It's all gone now. Nope. You get them, what they put on it for you, and ketchup packets. But anyway, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
So if you notice, though, the cost of operations on the right side of this chart, it hasn't really gone up a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
It and the cost really hasn't been an issue for operations. A lot of things at Disney are made to last, not as much anymore, but it is something where it is fascinating that Disney was all about innovation and trying to lower the cost, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's all about trying to make as much revenue as possible. The
Mm-hmm.
desire for money has allowed the company to grow at an incredible pace, but then that also needs more money to keep that growth stable. You could say it becomes a bit monstrous. It becomes all about itself rather than providing an actual service like Disney wanted it to. So thus IPs, even if they're successful, can get shelved at the slightest moment that they see the profits dip. And a good example of this is Phineas and Ferb, which they brought back after they shut everything down because they're like, it's dipping in popularity. We better just kill it. And they're like, we still have more seasons we want to do. Nope, that's it. Just get rid of it. And now they
Mm-hmm.
brought it back because they're like, okay, we made a mistake. And that cost them more money.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So we're gonna just take a quick look at what makes a good story. It has to have good purpose, plot, morals, character, conflict, theme, humor, imagination, beauty, action, nostalgia, and setting. But when you don't have a good story, you're going to have a twisted plot, an unknown plot, a twisted purpose, an unknown plot, a perverted moral, flat characters, no conflict, have evil win, bad humor, lack of imagination, ugly content, action only, rage baiting, a big problem of modern day, and boring sets. And I have noticed it's like in recent years, it's like they're doing a checklist of these things. Like, how many of these bad elements can we throw in there? And it's become quite interesting to me.
Well, see, and not all of them are bad necessarily, like evil wins. I think you could have some good movies with, where the bad guy doesn't win. I mean, one of the worst was Empire Strikes Back, because that was that I hated that. Was that ending? It was like the good guys were supposed to win and all, and now you had all this turmoil at the end of it. It seemed like the Empire won and the bad guys won that one. But and what's funny is that's recognized as probably the best of all of the Star Wars movies. But
it also has the positive ending of that there was another movie to wrap it up.
And there's a hope. There's a hope. They were not giving up, yeah. So,
but there is movies out there that evil does win, and it psychologically, I've seen it almost destroy a man. So I'm very, very much aware that this can become a big problem. If you have a compelling story, that's one thing. Kind of like how in The Dark Knight, one of my favorite films, The Dark Knight has the Joker basically being proven like, hey, I can destroy the morality of Gotham, and I took Harvey Dent and destroyed him, brought him down to my level, and Batman says we can't let him win, and so he takes responsibility. The Joker has technically won, but Batman takes on the guilt, so that way the villain's victory is nullified. Kind of interesting. It was made by Nolan. Yeah. But that's why I'm not a fan of evil wins, and why I think that that's an element of a bad story, because you want people to watch it again. And if you want the profits, a movie that encourages hope is going to sell a lot more than one that encourages that suggests evil wins.
Right.
But I know a lot of the stuff here is not going to be agreed upon by everybody. Just like how the elements of a good story are not going to be agreed upon by everybody. As we went about with the first story, Death of Storytelling stream. But when it comes to Disney and Star Wars, that kind of is important, because Star Wars is a big, big series. And if you start to focus on the bad elements of storytelling, well, it's going to eventually erode away the fan base. And I think that is a big part of what has happened. So how do we now evaluate Disney's Star Wars with kind of the foundation of that first stream? One of the things I will say, and we hinted at this last time, but one thing I don't want us to believe is that Disney is failing in Star Wars. They have found a new audience, and they make a lot of money. Their costs of operation have gone down, and their income has stayed fairly static. So in a way, you could say that they're making more money than before. Now, it's not what they want. They wanted to see it like exponentially go up. And instead, it's been fairly static. To them, that's failure. So Star Wars is not dead. It found a new audience. And it may not be what they wanted. They may want more success, but it's still there, and it's probably not going to disappear anytime soon.
Right. I mean, not everybody's so completely old school. There are a lot of people that like a lot of the new shows, a lot of the new approaches, and that's perfectly valid. If you like it, you like it. You like what you like. But like you said, and I've heard that point too made, they got a new audience. They were looking for a new audience. I mean, when we see them going into certain demographics and things like that, it's clear they wanted a new group of people.
They wanted a fresh group of people.
They wanted a fresh, because see here, it fell in the hardcore fans that brought in new fans over the yes, but see those old fans that have been there the 50 years, they don't want them because they wanted something newer, fresher. It's like the theme parks too. I mean, they're catering to the kid people with no kids, the little young rich hipster kid adults and stuff that come buying alcohol or doing Ubers everywhere, and you know
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what it's been catered to. Is not the traditional families that have made the park what it was over the years. It's like a minor league baseball park on Thursday dollar beer night, you know. So,
I will
but
say
yeah,
though that something that I've seen with Star Wars, and this is actually a good point from Gap, is that you have lost the old fans, but
mm-hmm,
in Disney's point of view, that didn't matter. They got fresh wallets, and that the older folks are still going to buy things based upon the old stuff. They're not going to
mm-hmm,
buy the new stuff, but they already have them locked in. They're going to keep buying that old stuff. And so they just throw out something here and there of old stuff. Here's a new Darth Vader thing. People will buy it up.
mm-hmm,
But the new people, they wanted people that were willing to drop everything. And I know a guy who has no kids. He married a woman that loves Disney, and they spend a minimum of $10,000 to $20,000 a year on Disney.
mm-hmm.
Now, if you're Disney and you see people like that, you're like, oh, forget the family is going to spend maybe a couple $100 on us per year. We want the people that are spending the $10,000 to $20,000.
Yep.
And by the way, those people are actually not spending as much as other folks. So, in
Yeah.
Disney's point of view, they got the people that are willing to dump their entire wallet out,
Yeah.
and that is very tempting to them.
Yeah. Like I said, the decades they push out quality people for cheaper, more compliant NPCs, sets, the costume stories, and I tell you that those make a difference. The sets, the costumes, the cheapness. I mean, it does affect the quality of storytelling. I know some of the costumes in the Mandalorian series were just so what, and of course their guest star actors that they put in it didn't help either. It does affect it. Um, and West is saying, you know, Disney dead, Star Wars dead, Trek is dead, Who is dead, comics are dead, and they're coming for. They are not now coming for anime, or they're going to try. Well, the thing though, as I understand it, the Japanese culture over there and the anime studios are very protective. They don't want the West to bring in their stuff, their values into it. And I'm trying to not jump us out of order here, but protecting your brand, protecting the whole storyline and the way you tell stories is important because each of those franchises that he named there have died. I mean, Who, Trek, because they changed the way they told stories. They brought in modern culture. They brought in modern issues instead of just I mean, and it's not those. I will tell you, those have always been there, but it wasn't like getting a sledgehammer to the head like it's become. You know, and that's the difference. Is we preach the morals to that stuff of like what you know to that point what's happened, and I do understand that that's kind of the thing in manga and anime now is there's a lot of protection you know of the East against the West from coming in. I'm hoping you can help me out of that, Jeff, because I mean I'm trying to keep us organized with where you want to go with this. So
Yeah, that's a good point, and we're actually I don't have anything related to the anime in this one, but one thing I will say is that be very skeptical of what Japan's willing to do. They do have a modern woke faction in the industry, and it's growing. And I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold it off.
Interesting.
I would say that that's worth a deep dive later on because
Okay.
I did do a stream about that a couple years ago, in mentioning about how this has kind of how Japan's in a little bit of a pickle right now. So definitely worth exploring later.
Okay.
One thing I will say though with Disney and how Star Wars has fallen apart is that it's not out for the count because they've been going on for 14 plus years, technically longer than that, because of when the they first started putting pen to paper about their plans. But they have been able to justify all their losses, and they have found a sneaky way to get the government to help do a tax write-off for them when things don't pan out. So it doesn't matter if things succeed or fail. They have the government to bail them out. So I think that they have justified all their losses, and that's why they don't course correct.
Buddy made a point here. I want to hit it real quick. Disney purchased Marvel and Star Wars. They primarily a female-focused brand, and they wanted the male demographic. Then they decided to change them into the female-focused character brands too. Do you think this plays a lot into what happened also?
Oh, absolutely. And I skipped the slides from last time because it does get a bit specific. And I realized that while I could risk that on my channel, I didn't really want to risk bringing some of that stuff to your channel.
Gotcha. Now I appreciate it. Yeah.
But it is something that I definitely do agree. The things are pretty heavy in terms of how Disney operates, and the woke mind virus has got a hold of them very strongly. And when I was there was a prediction that came out that basically said a third of the world was going to become gay or trans, and they gambled everything on that. And I do remember when that statistic came out because of that.
Yeah. We have no problems hearing Jeff. Jeff is just smooth, mellow voice, as AI said one night. But I'm Jeff. Anybody else having problems hearing Jeff? Because we've not had any problems so far. So.
Well, I can also increase my mic volume a little bit.
Yeah. Plus, Jeff is using a new system tonight, so he's got to work out the levels. Yeah, we had a test.
How about right now? Is it a little bit better?
You're a lot louder now, and that's good. Hopefully that will help, folks. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, but that was one of the things is I had a horrendous echo, and we finally realized it was on Jeff's side. So
it was me, yes, indeed. Yeah. I was having problems because I wanted to be able to do things like this. Adding a voice to my my list, I can do Darth Vader and things like that.
Or have robot voices. Hopefully that's coming through correctly.
Oh my gosh. Well, then you're really robot. Yeah, that came through. Yeah. And Gap said is better. So, yeah. All right. So let's pick up with where you are here with the slides and where you want to go with that.
So, while it's easy to tear apart Disney for all this stuff, I will say that we also have to be careful because there are a lot of people that love Disney Star Wars. And I met some of them actually a couple of years ago. And I was like, but Disney Star Wars is trash. And they're like, I love it. It's the best Star Wars. And I realized there is another faction, and it's the people that kind of grew up with games from their youth. Because a lot of the stuff in Disney kind of favors that like the RPG sort of a gamer mindset. And so a lot of people actually do enjoy it, even if people like myself don't. But there's two things that Disney...
I do agree. Because somebody that's older than me, like I told you, somebody that got me in streaming, they love the new stuff. They're more open to it. I'm not. It's dead. And I know that some of the people in the chat do like some elements of the new stuff that I don't necessarily consider watching, but you're right. I mean, they had another audience, and it's a lot of people consider it still good Star Wars. So
that being said, there's still two areas that Disney Star Wars fails at. And of course, this I think is why it has fallen apart in a lot of fans' eyes in recent years. Besides just the people that disliked it because of kind of like you or myself, when they started changing George Lucas's original idea, there's two other things: no consequences and a overly focused on fan service. So we have to examine high stakes and the consequences. And I just have one question: do you want some A1 sauce with that? With those high stakes?
Oh. No, a good steak doesn't need a sauce.
Well
Yeah.
done, Anakin. The Star Wars Original Saga was a constant reminder of consequences.
Right.
Every action, a good one or a bad one, there was a consequence, and the character was going to have to deal with it. The audience was going to have to kind of come to terms with it. Like when Darth Vader reveals that he is Luke's father, that took a lot of people by surprise. Or Luke having his hand cut off. People are like, but how is he going to be able to fight the dark side now? He's lost his hand.
Yep.
And a lot of people would see things like that, and they'd see our hero can bleed. And that means that there is higher stakes, and it becomes plot driven and narrative driven rather than character driven. And for a good story, you have to have the narrative lead everything. If Luke had not lost his hand to Vader, he might not have seen how easy it is to fall to the dark side when he realizes his father is also has mechanical limbs. The character has to feel true suffering, and that way the audience knows that the stakes are high and something bigger is at play. If your plot involves not being harmed, well, it's going to become pretty boring pretty fast. And I would dare say that Disney, in the attempt to want to be family friendly, has presented themselves with a very tough situation, which they're never going to be able to get to the level of weight that the original story had. And even things like this, if Disney, which they've been planning to do a remake of the prequels and the original trilogy, they are planning this. They just wanted it to happen sooner than it currently is scheduled for. They are going to remove things like this. I can guarantee it, because they cannot have, based upon their own internal like corporate direction, they're not allowed to go to levels of suffering like what you have in the old original Star Wars. Instead, we have things like lightsabers that poke nice little tiny holes into your villains and doesn't cook their insides like it would. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been stabbed by a molten hot rod, but I kind of think that the damage is more than just that little hole. I think that you're going to be...
Qui-Gon Jinn would still be alive, position. You know?
Yeah, poor Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And so when you do things like that, suddenly Maul's death becomes a little bit more understanding, because people are looking at it and it's like, well, obviously you can recover from damage, and science fiction, advanced society, they can be able to heal anything. Look at Darth Vader. And it's like, no, Darth Vader was the exception. And so then they're like, well, we have to put exceptions into everyone else. Every one of the people here survives.
Right.
And only one of them was a true retcon. So Disney has been obsessed with making everybody able to survive. Now, there's some characters like Boba Fett that I believe should have survived because it actually was arguably possible.
Right.
And you can be able to argue it to like, hey, he had armor on. He had a special set of skills that allowed him to survive things like that.
Right.
But a lightsaber, that ain't going to happen.
Right, and they were trained to deal with the lightsaber, and the Beskar would defend it. But you had said something about everybody. You remember there was it probably, I think it was the end of The Last Jedi. It was Broom Boy, where it's basically the whole thing is everybody can be a Jedi. You got the Jedi in you, and that's one. That whole point about making everything, nobody's unique. Everybody can do something. Before it was like you had to be special to be a Jedi. Yeah, when you said that about how it applied universally, it's like that's the first thing that jumped out at me when you said that, because before Jedi were scouted, not everybody could use the Force, and actually sometimes the Force was cut off from beings like the Yuuzhan Vong the Force would cut itself off from them. But if you go with something everybody can be something or whatever, you lose what makes that special group of people special, because anybody can do it.
Yep.
Yep.
So if you don't have consequences, you might as well just roll the credits.
Yep.
Save yourself all that time. There is one more thing that gets changed when you
Thank you,
introduce
Jeff. Sorry.
the ability to revive a character.
Oh, God, the spider legs things. Okay.
I know. Aren't they just absolutely horrendous?
Yes, very much so.
So you know about the rule of two, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, for people that don't have like a good solid understanding of what the rule of two is, in the world of Star Wars, that is how the Sith operate. Darth Bane in the EU destroyed the rule of many in order to make the rule of two. And that was because the idea of that, well, if you're greedy and power hungry like the Sith, you're not going to tolerate any sort of competition. But the Sith work for the dark side of the Force. The dark side of the Force has to still persist. And so you need an apprentice. But you can't have multiple apprentices, because then that creates a power struggle. And so the dark side of the Force has to only have two. Just as Yoda said, only two there are, no more and no less. The moment one apprentice dies, another one is chosen and put into that role. When you have a character like Darth Maul come back from the dead, you have just ruined that rule of two. And now suddenly you have not two Sith. You now have two different branches of Sith. And it creates a conflict with the original story. So then how do you defeat the Sith? Obviously, they're branching out. They're becoming bigger and bigger. Pretty soon, you're going to have a rule of 1,000. And, well, then you're never going to have an end to your story. Darth Maul surviving could have made sense, by the way. You could have actually made that happen. You could have made it to where his character, his race, doesn't have any vital organs in the lower half of their body. You could have made that happen. No problem whatsoever. But there's one thing you cannot allow. They have to lose connection to the Force. You could have made Darth Maul come back. Just get rid of his Force abilities. And that way you solve that problem. And then you don't have to try and, do something outlandish like, oh, well, he had to create a spider legs for himself. Instead, it's like he's in the process of healing and his race takes a long time to recover. You could have made that happen. But then you also make him weaker because now he's lost his connection to the Force. It makes him have to become a different character entirely. It transforms them, because if a character is going to come back, there better be a darn good reason for it. Oh, well, we just like having him on the screen. All right, nerf him. Make it so that he has to transform. Why do you want to bring him back so badly? Well, Filoni's like, well, because I want to be able to have him fight Obi-Wan once again. And maybe Darth Vader. Which, by the way, happened.
And see, you could have brought the Sith back in different numbers, because it was done in one of the last EU book series that I read. And I can't remember how to describe all the details, but basically, many, many millennium years ago, there was a Sith ship in the wars against the Jedi that crashed, landed on a planet, and got marooned. And they were there. They were stayed as function. They took over the local population. They married and breeded but they couldn't get off the planet. They were like in a vacuum right there. So the Jedi didn't know about them or anybody else. Luke comes across them later because they were able to get off, and they starting some trouble in the galaxy around the time of the Yuuzhan Vong. But in that case, you could bring them back contrary to the rule of two, but in a way that makes some sense that, hey, these people just got lost and stuck on a planet that nobody knew about it, versus, hey, we're going to bring back this retread guy that's been cut in half and somehow ask him and make him, like, and that's the biggest thing, do something that greater, more powerful Sith Lords could never do. They were trapped to holocrons. They were trapped to temples. Even when Sidious came out, Palpatine, even in Empire, heir to the Empire. He had clone bodies, but they kept dying all the time very quickly because of the power of the dark side energy. That's why he wanted a young Skywalker baby, to have a healthy body that was pure and not this guy that cuts in half and just magically, because of hate, never dies. He stays around, and like you said, cut off the last bottom half, and yet he's still anyway. But the point being is that you could do some of the stuff they wanted to do if you just thought about it, made it a little bit more logical. I mean, maybe there was like Savage Opress was a brother of Maul's. Have him the focus with the double red lightsaber if that's what you wanted. You know, have him trained by like the Night Sisters or something other offshot or whatever, or have him get taken by Sidious. And no, what they do, they get Count Dooku. There's ways you could have done this stuff differently, but I think the point is respect the intelligence of the audience too, and try to be intellectually honest and consistent. Because like I said, those are ways that you could have done this. The Sith were still around, but nobody knew about it. But this guy breaks all the rules of other more powerful, greater Sith Lords, which is another one of the things that really bothers me. Ahoy, Deepo! Great to see you tonight. How are you doing? Legatus, hey, bringing some humor. Yet, isn't Maul the ultimate rule of two halves? Very nice.
Technically, did two Sith come out of that?
They could have with a different top and a different bottom, but they put them back together again. Something that couldn't even be done for Humpty Dumpty. Oh gosh. Oh boy, I can't wait to see where we're going now.
So I have made no secret that I really don't like Filoni. I think he's the source of all this stuff going wrong. Kathleen Kennedy gets ridiculed. Filoni's the source.
Yes, and to your point, I remember that. Even when we were doing Star Wars weekends and stuff, people were showing, even back to late 2000s, there was unhappiness with where it was going from the cartoon shows and stuff like that, and because Filoni had his hands in all of it. And even though Lucas controlled the EU and the novels and stuff, all this other stuff started slipping in on the TV side. And you know how people do, they don't read books, they'll use the TV to build the canon from there and not what they've read in books. And yeah, I was studying Dave Filoni breaks lore continuity and other news lava hot. Okay. Oh, tell Anakin. All right, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
The Maul problem is, I think that is very much where it started to go wrong. Now, it's not the source, but it's where things really started to go wrong because it took away consequences. It robbed fans of a possible replacement character or a better lore-accurate explanation. It just brought back a character because they're like, hey, people like this character. Let's use him. It's like, no, you could have used that character in such better ways, but now you've destroyed so much of the foundation of the story. One of the great things about Lord of the Rings, for example, the story's lore stays accurate throughout. It all came out at once. And then Tolkien's like, nope, that's it. No more. Because he knew that if he tried to add more, it would start to destroy the original meaning of his story. And he was like trying to pen a sequel, and he was like, nope, it's just not working. And he put it down. Watch. Amazon's probably going to try and continue it. But a Maul without the Force, could you imagine what that would look like? He feels like he's been robbed. And so rather than just wanting to get revenge on Kenobi for his legs, he wants to revenge because he's been cut off from the Force. That would have made him dangerous in the sense of that he's irrational. He's out of control.
Right.
I think that would have been a really good, an interesting sort of concept.
Right.
Every character has to play a role. And like I mentioned earlier, if they're going to be continuing, they have to have their role changed. He's no longer the Sith that they are fighting. Now he is another character entirely. He has a different, his backstory is the same. but his purpose, his actions, his direction has completely altered because he has been defeated.
Mhm.
But Filoni has been recorded kind of mentioning how he wanted to subvert what George Lucas was trying to make because he thought he could do it better. And that's where you get things like Ahsoka. That's where you get things like Maul coming back. And you have a lot of other things that were introduced into the cartoons that he was like, yeah, I was able to get away with it. And he knows that he was going against what George Lucas wanted. That's one of the reasons why Lucas became a little bit more protective as time went on, because I think he was starting to see what was happening.
Mhm.
And I remember hearing an interview. It was like, yeah, there's definitely something going on. But Filoni's like, I want to have one more way to like correct George Lucas. I want Maul. I want to be in charge of what happens to Maul. I want him to fight all these people. He's going to be my big baddie that I'm going to introduce. Great. But anyway, big problem. But Disney doesn't care about the stakes of a story. Rather, it's a company looking for opportunities to retcon for cool and exciting twists. It wants to push agendas, or it wants to sell new merch. And I dare say a lot of people don't realize how much Disney thrives off of merch. They make such a massive amount. And so technically, while they've not made as much money off of the sequel trilogy or the other products, they have still made a profit. And I dare say it's a pretty big profit because people will pay through the nose for this stuff.
Right. Even though most of their stuff ends up at Ollie's discount bargain outlet now. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
the stuff in the stores. The stuff at the parks is the really expensive stuff, and they don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to share the profit as much.
Yep.
So they make an absolute killing off of that stuff. As long as they can make something from it, Disney will bring back dead characters, introduce poorly thought out ones, push characters that serve no purpose, alter characters, or shame the old audience, which is a popular thing for them to do. Rarely does it have any purpose other than to get them more money through their merch. But there's a bigger issue, I dare say, that is driving a lot of things, especially nowadays. This was kind of like how they got started. Now we've entered a new problem, and it is fan service. It is a big problem in the industry.
Oh gosh.
And I dare say that a lot of people don't even stop and ask themselves, is this the best thing we can do for our franchise? And so I kind of want to go back and take a look at what Disney views as fan service, because it is different for each company, and it is different for the way that they are going to try and grab content from the past and reuse it. First, let's go over what fan service is. People will debate what it is. If you go and ask people from the Hollywood sphere, what is fan service? They'll say, oh, action sequences. You ask people what fan service is for Disney, and they'll say, oh, it's going to be like a character coming back from the dead or things like that. If you ask people from anime, it's going to be something else entirely. But here's the actual definition from fan service that I've been able to find. Material included as in a book, movie, game, or performance, specifically to please the fans, either as entertainingly familiar elements, such as an inside joke or a callback aimed at fans of a series or franchise, or sexually suggestive scenes to titillate the audience. Both of those are technically on online definitions of what this stuff is.
Right.
So while not listed as a main element of a good story, or it is still something that has become very much a part of the whole industry. It is everywhere. And Marvel is notorious for having taken this and pushed it to the far extremes. When they had Captain America wielding Mjolnir, that was fan service. It also served as a good story element, so I give that one a pass. But then they did something else. They had Tony Stark with the Infinity Stones to do the final snap. Now, that was pure fan service. It wasn't about trying to choose the most logical solution, which would have been to give the stones to Thor. That would have made a lot more sense. It could have been his redemption arc. But rather than that, they just wanted to say, well, our series kind of started with Iron Man, we'll have it end with him. But it would have made more logical sense in the story to have it maybe as Thor. But it was fan service that dictated where things were going. Fan service is very subjective, and not everyone will agree on that sort of stuff. But you know what? You're never going to find any sort of consensus on it. It is going to, though, separate the audience. It is going to split them in two regardless. It can cause some people to reject your story entirely. It can cause some people to embrace it entirely. But such content needs to serve some sort of logical purpose. And if it can be discarded and doesn't change the plot, maybe it's not worth bringing up. Because you can get everybody having something else that they're excited about. They're looking at the show and thinking, wow, that's amazing. And then you're like, all these people had something else. What was it that they were watching?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. No.
You know what's interesting? When I was saw what was that that movie that came out? The one about the NPC that starts to understand that he's real.
Oh, is that the one that just came out this summer with the?
No, it was the other year. It was Normal Guy or something like that.
Oh, Guy. It's that Ryan Reynolds was in it.
Yeah.
Not Fall Guy. That was the other one. Fair Guy. I know what you're saying. Because we saw the movie. It's
Free Guy.
Free Guy.
That
Yes,
was the name of it.
Yeah.
So Free Guy was when I first noticed, like, all these things are coming together. It's all about fan service. It doesn't actually contribute to the story. It's nothing more than making people excited to see it. But when it comes to the narrative, it's like, that stuff maybe will sell tickets, but is it story? Not really. If you want something to survive that first box office, you need a good story, because a lot of those inside jokes, a lot of the fan service will not age well. And eventually, if you really want a story like Star Wars to thrive, you have to have something that is going to have good longevity, because otherwise, it'll be gone in a moment. Questionable fan service can usually be sexual in nature, gory, or high adrenaline. And I think all of these are bad for the story. Not because you can't have it, but more like it should not be driving your story. I've never seen a sex scene that is added to the story meaningfully. I've never heard about gore that has been added that really transformed the story for the better. As we've seen with The Dark Knight, you can have a deep, meaningful story, not have one drop of blood. Or high adrenaline. You can have something that's high adrenaline, and people will move on to the very next product in a moment. So you'll have it for a brief.
And to further your point, I mean, I tell you, even the 70s, when they didn't show blood and guts and a lot of other stuff very much, sometimes the best is psychological, what you don't see. Trilogy of Terror, we talk about the Tiki doll. Was and then it was like little guys stabbing stuff. But you saw a little bit of blood with it, but it was not gory. It was not over the top with that. But the voice, the sound effects, all that made the scene, made the drama. I Am Legend, the intensity built by the silence and the deathly quiets. I mean, things like that are so much more effective than necessarily, just, like you said, any of these type of things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes less is better. It really is. Less is better. You leave it to the imagination. And that's one of the things with storytelling too, is good stories make us use our imagination. We either place ourselves in the event or we picture what it is in our mind. And, we don't have all the questions and everything seen. It's up to you to visualize how it is.
Absolutely. So in the end, what you really need is your story to drive everything. If you're going to have something else in there, it should have a reason for it to be in there. This is why Star Wars is has both been the source of things being really well done and also being horribly done. Fan service, unfortunately, has led to a lot of the things that has gone wrong with Disney Star Wars as of late, including things like Ahsoka. The Ahsoka fans are passionate about their loyalty to Ahsoka, to the point of where they had to have Ahsoka beat Anakin in the Force dimension and thus humiliate him in order to grow Ahsoka's wisdom. And by the way, if you watch that sequence, you can see that Anakin is still, that actor, Hayden, is on top of his game. He never lost his skill. He is an incredible sword master. But Ahsoka was terrible. And so you're like, how did she win? Well, they just had to make her win. But
it was kind of like Mary Sue almost in a way before we got Rey, because Anakin, supposedly the greatest Jedi of all time to restore balance to the Force, gets, from a Padawan, somebody that was not even formally a Padawan, never completed the training. Yeah. And and I do agree this was a point that she was supposed to be gone, but they kept her around, kind of like they repeat the same thing with Darth Maul, So.
Indeed. So they had to bring her back so they could have her win against Darth Vader. And then he's like, don't worry, I'm watching over you. And it's like, oh, that's so touching. You care about your old Padawan, which you weren't technically supposed to have because you were not a master. And so that thus would upset the Jedi, and they would have, caused all sorts of problems. But no, I'm just here to encourage you, and I'm watching over you, which they had to verify that, yes, indeed, that is what we were trying to push in the show. Of course, if you are a student of the Star Wars universe, you're like, wait a minute. So you're going to appear as a Force ghost to Ahsoka, and you're going to be watching over her. And then on the other side of the galaxy, your nephew is about to suddenly break into your nephew's quarters and say, you nephew?
Yeah, you got to use your sound.
It is definitely not ideal, and I dare say it's a lot more problematic than Disney probably realizes, because his own son is not his focus. It's his Padawan.
Yeah. I think, didn't you talk about consequences also at some point too? Because Stunning's bringing out the point that Ahsoka was another character that never had consequences or not significant. Got a whole squad of clones killed because she didn't follow the orders. And that was something, because she was young and impulsive. She was slap on the wrist for it. I mean, and then the whole thing with her when she left with Bear Sophie, doing what she did, it's like, it just seemed like they tried to impute Anakin's character on her, his strong-headed independence, strong-willed stuff on top of her, but it was like, it just didn't fit. It pulled it off to me as like a bratty character, very selfish character, which Anakin was, but it just seemed different. It's like they wanted the same character. One as a master, one as a Padawan, which I don't think would really work, but.
Yeah, there's a way that they could have made her story arc work. It would take a while to go into how you could have redeemed that story arc. But it was possible. It just, you still would have had to have her die in Order 66.
Yep.
That's the only way you could have made her character pan out.
Yeah, exactly.
But she didn't. And of course, she is now super popular. And, but it has presented us with yet again more problems related to fan service, because if you can bring a character back even someone like Ahsoka benefits from this, and it becomes a never-ending cycle because the fans want it, thus we have to make it happen, rather than George Lucas, who thought, well, I shouldn't have killed off that character so fast because people liked it too much. He never went back and retconned it, even though he was the one who was in charge of it for so long. He understood that there were limits.
Mm-hmm.
But it becomes lazy storytelling if you just kind of throw in these elements willy-nilly. You're like, well, we just want to add this in there, rather than try and troubleshoot how you're going to make it work. There's a balance that has to be walked, and as people become more polarized, the wrong fan service, though, can anger people to the point of where they dedicate themselves to seeing your product's downfall. We have crossed that line for Star Wars. A lot of people now are dedicated to seeing the product die.
Yeah, because it's not what we grew up with. It was not what it is. It's a completely different product now in many, many ways. See like this. I mean, it shows how somehow Palpatine returned. I can buy that. I'll be honest. Why? Because I read the EU. And there was a pattern of the most powerful Sith Lords that could continue to live but it was in certain restricted controls. They couldn't just get out there and run the streets or whatever. They come back, in essence, whatever body they took would die like very quickly. And some were confined to holocrons and temples, like I said earlier. It was not, hey, I'm out and running the streets like what happened with Darth Maul. And that's where they start changing things. But like with Palpatine, reading it, Heir to the Empire, you can understand it. It's more believable because here was one of the greatest, probably the greatest Sith of all time. And yet he found a way to continue his essence, but even he was subject to frailties and limitations. Not, hey, I'm Darth Maul, I can run around. I got new crab legs, and no, just don't put me on the all-you-can-eat crab buffet. But, it just... and it gets about to rules and context. And like in this case where they brought Maul back and even Ahsoka, they're bringing them back contrary to all the rules and everything's been set up. Like there's a special application to these people. And when you start having those inconsistencies, people start questioning it, which they shouldn't. You want to just enjoy the product and stuff, but when you start changing people's reality or what they have been led to believe what the universe is about, then you really start causing questions and open up a lot of questions in there. So, and yes, the Sith artifacts, yes, can hold the Sith's essence, yes, but in many cases they were restricted. It was their essence. They cannot populate a body outside of certain things. So otherwise they would have come back quite often. So
just because you can bring something back and have people like, wow, that's amazing, it's so cool. Yeah, that's like the worst possible reasoning that you can use for it. And things like Palpatine returning, you could have made that make sense. But again, that takes backstory. That takes narrative. You can make it work. Just put the time and effort into it. Don't just say somehow Palpatine returned. Nobody is going to buy that.
Hey, small time. Good to see you tonight. Yeah, and this is the second time we've had somebody commented about the world between worlds in Rebels complicates it because the writers can retcon whatever they want. That's the second time that we've talked about the world between worlds, and that's what. And I tell you what made Star Wars so great? The original, it was just a simple story. We had this power called the Force. Okay, believable, religion, whatever. They had the lightsabers. They shot around. Had spaceships, but it was simple. You didn't need to have, well, this guy got cut in half, but come back, and then this guy's related. Yeah, sometimes the best story is what's simple, and all this other stuff is fan service. Fans like some of this complicated nature. I don't. It's just keep it simple. Sometimes.
I want to address what West has brought up here.
Okay.
He says, here's the thing. The kids making the films these days have been told that they are the most special generation to ever walk the earth. So to them, the rules set down in prior films don't apply to them. I would say there's truth in that, but not in Disney. Disney intentionally hires people that don't think because they want to think for them. And so when they were hiring people, when I was at Disney and we were trying to put in for like internships or things like that, the only people that they would put in there were somebody that fit one of the alphabet letters, or if they were foreigners, or if they had some special needs. Those were the only people they hired. Everybody else was shown the door. I was shown the door. I was told, like, hey, we don't need you in this industry. We already have this figured out. You can work in the shops. And I was like, but I've been working in the shops. I want to have my chance to, enter into the industry. No, we don't hire people like you. And I watched as other people, same story. We were all there. We expected that it was going to be our step into the industry. And we were all shown the door. And the people that they hired, the ones that we got to see, that we were like, hey, of people around here, who's going to probably get hired? Those people never would have been considered by us because they didn't have good ideas. They were just nothing more than, yes, we agree with the company, and that was it. And then the company, like Filoni, can come in and say, I got this idea for bringing back Darth Maul. And everyone else is like, yeah, it's amazing, that's great. Because they were not critical thinkers. They pushed all the critical thinkers out the door.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, where Legato says it, because that leads to cause-effect consequences, which they don't understand. They write themselves in the corner. They ignore everything trying to solve the problem they caused. And it's because of no consistency with what they did before. So I think that. And Buddy points out something back to the original movies, though, about never switching it to have Leia be the sister in Jedi. Kind of goes off the cliff after that.
You are correct, West. I didn't want to put it in that way, but yes. Yeah. But anyway, so I look at these at the company, and this was in the works for so very long. But there's 4 areas in which fan service gets addressed in Star Wars.
Okay. And Jeff, after we get through this part, I want to catch up on some of the starred comments I have before what people are still around.
There's the callback, the action, the romance, and the one that I don't think people really put much emphasis on, the weird and the childish. Everyone hears about the sexual side of things because it gets headlines. But when we think about, the different categories of fan service, we don't really realize that the other ones are just as impactful and usually are driven by the fans. And people and characters like Grogu have benefited from this and caused a whole lot of problems. We'll address that later on. So feel free to carry on with the chat like you mentioned about, and I'm going to give myself a little bit more water.
Okay, well, we're going to do that. We're going to catch up with this. Let me get back to. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. We got 12 watching on the YouTube side. Woohoo! Thank you. 3 over on the Twitch side. Let's go through from top down. Stunning said, see if they didn't get rid of the EU. Sequels are ready to go. It's called the Janus Solo Sword of the Jedi trilogy. Canceled everything Disney wanted. Whether it's Disney or not, that whole Yuuzhan Vong, that whole New Jedi Order, that was one of the best book series I've ever read in my life. It had a great natural enemy that was not the Empire. Actually, in some parts, the Imperial Remnant had to unify with the Rebel Alliance or the New Republic to be able to try to fight off and survive what was coming, which, of course, people in the extended universe also know that Palpatine built up the Empire to, and I actually had Admiral Thrawn with him because they knew what was coming. They knew that there was an invasion coming from the unknown regions, and it was a very powerful invasion. And that's very, very interesting in terms of a great enemy. Stunning also said makes no sense for the Jedi to give Anakin an apprentice right after Attack of the Clones. Exactly, because of how emotionally jaded Anakin was in the film, like giving an ADHD kid a chainsaw expecting good things. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. It made no sense. I think that was probably one of the worst moves is giving him an apprentice and to put, uh, um, especially somebody that was as temperamental as him as Ahsoka was, with an impulsive leader. So, Buddy Hepburn, I love this. It started going bad a long time if you think about it. He didn't mention this Christmas edition yet, but the Ewok movies are not good. The special editions and reworking and things. See, that's another thing that a lot of people have. When Lucas in the late '90s, we went when they came out, and we bought 3 tickets. We watched them back to back to back in the theater with the special editions. A lot of people had a problem with it. They felt like it changed the story in a lot of ways with the new gadgets, the new technology. That they didn't just truly rely on the story as it was. Like, well, one of the best moments, it's not that Han shot first. Han shot. Greedo never got a shot off. But we got to change the story because of 20 years passing by. And, well, people might think that Han's not a good guy because he just shot a guy in cold blood. Well, I'm sorry. I was 7 years old. I didn't care. It mattered to me. He shot first to save his life. I mean, that's when that was on Lucas too for that decision. Because this thing, well, we don't want him to be this. No, people respected the character as he was. That's more realistic that he would have shot first, not let the other guy get a shot off. So, Buddy's point here is that this had been happening for a long time. What do you think with this, Jeff? Because, I mean, the special edition came out. They started tinkering with the past and things like that.
There are some people that really cannot stand with how they tinkered with stuff in the past. There were a lot of side projects that Lucas was trying to do, things like the Ewok movies and whatnot. I don't think those were very smart for him to do. Mm-hmm. I think that it started to introduce the idea of the expanded universe as coming to the big screen. And I think it created a lot of problems that Lucas would probably admit that he regrets. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that being said, when it comes to the alterations that happened for the special edition, I actually really like them. The reason why is because if you look at some of the stuff that was done, something as simple as they removed the green boxes around the starships. Those boxes were obnoxious to look at, especially with modern eyes. You see those boxes and you're like, come on, just clean it up a little bit. And so then you get the benefit of that. You get the scenes that they couldn't pull off back in the day. They're like, you saw it, but it looked horrible. And then they're like, well, now it looks better. There were a lot of things I think that panned out well. There's some that didn't. Some of it was quite problematic, but for the most part, I liked it. So, but I know that I'm not necessarily in the majority, but I know that there are a lot of people that
see. I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with the prequels. I mean, I'm not one of those, but certain things like that, why change it? Because you change the character when you do that. Stunning said, problem with Disney Lucas tries to build the Jedi the same way we saw in the prequels, and surprised it fell apart at the same time. Yeah, that is definitely true. And he mentioned also the prequels had normal movie problems. The sequels had a fundamental misunderstanding of what Star Wars is about. That I agree with, because they were now going in the new Star Wars direction, which was beyond the Skywalker bloodline. So, all right. And feel free if you have any of these others. Again, here's the link to the Death of Storytelling with Jeff the first time. So, and Stunning brings up Legends Luke understood he had to rebuild the Jedi in a new way for a new generation. Obi-Wan told him in Heir to the Empire, you are not the last of the old Jedi, but the first of the new. Let's see where we go here. We got Female lead nostalgia because Luke, Han, Leia could be there as mentors. Jaina, Ben, Chance, Calrissian. Lots of places that could. Yeah, exactly. They could have. And this is one of the ones, Jeff, that maybe you want to. This is one of the biggest changes that happened on the way that they actually switched Leia from being a romantic love triangle to being a sister of Luke. I mean, that has thrown off some big inconsistencies with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was, I know we were chatting about this a couple of streams back. And one of the things that I don't think we realize when we're trying to evaluate the efforts that go into making a film series, there are a lot of shortcuts you take. And Lucas is notorious for cutting things that he really shouldn't have. And a lot of people really want him to add those scenes back into the Star Wars films, especially the prequels, because a lot of the things that were confusing suddenly make sense when you add in those missing scenes. And to the point of where I've watched those scenes so many times, I kind of, in my mind, I already associate them as being part of the films because they are so crucial. But when you have something like that with Leia, I think it was probably on the cutting room floor. They're like, do we really want to go back and add all this stuff in? Because that requires about 5-10 minutes worth of content probably that you're going to have to put into the film. And George Lucas hated movies going beyond 2.5 hours. So I could see him just looking at the time frame and saying, nah, that's good enough. Yeah. But yes, it did cause problems. But from his point of view, he probably thought that he was choosing the lesser of two expensive options.
Yeah. Small Time saying he's against tinkering years after the fact. You shouldn't tweak a classic painting. Yeah, I agree with that.
I know many artists that would disagree with that one. They're still working on pieces of artwork that they finished when they were younger, and they're in their 50s or 60s, and they're still tinkering on it. Yes, I know many artists who do this.
Well, at least if you're the artist doing it yourself, you can do it. I mean, as we saw, the company was sold, and Buddy said the only things I think are for the better are Empire. Adding the scene to Star Wars messed the flow of the film up. Yeah, that's very true. Very understandable. All right. Well, Jeff, we are caught up now, so we can jump back into where you want to pick up at.
So I want to bring up the problem of fan service in terms of the callback. You can have a great idea that fans are like, yes, that's great. We want more of that. But the time for it is already gone. That's why you want to not be so quick to get rid of things. Use them to their fullness and then move on. Yeah. Problem is that when you start to bring things back, it loses its interest for the original. And one of the best examples, I think, was actually when you are watching The Mandalorian and you see his new replacement Starcraft. He is now on a Naboo starfighter. And it's like, they made it as this big reveal. And at first you're like, wow, that's a great thing. And then you realize, wait, he's a bounty hunter. Where's he putting the cargo?
Yep.
And so suddenly you're like, is he changing his ways? And it's like, no, he's not changing his ways. Well, then why go with that craft? You could have gone with any other Naboo craft, but no, they wanted the Starfighter because the Starfighter is so iconic and so beloved. But they could have gone with the same ship that Padme goes to visit Anakin with. That thing had a cargo area. It was sleek. It was still Naboo in its design. It would have been a great one, and it would have fit a bounty hunter.
Well, but at this point, forget. I always hated the Naboo snub fighters. Give me the Y-wing bomber. That would have been cool. Because I think it's got a back seat. You can put Grogu up in front with you, and then just I don't know. I like the Y-wings though.
I like the original craft as well. That would have been neat if you brought in the Y-wing and have that as his ship. But even so, wouldn't have a really good cargo area. Oh, sure, it's got a place for bombs. What, are you going to get outside and get around the back of the ship and shove the guy in there and then go back up to the cockpit. No, you want something where all of it's contained as if it is an airlifting craft. So
the only thing that would have made sense if you were a bounty hunter that was terminating everybody. You just get it, eliminate them, eliminated.
So you have all these problems, though, that get introduced when you try and in-service fans. I really like the Naboo Starfighter, but I really did not like how they brought it in for Din Djarin. Didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Is Darth Maul popular? Bring him back. You want to see Master Luke again? Let's have an epic scene where he's cutting down all these robots, because he can't have people anymore. You have to have robots. And so you're able to pull off these sequences. Fans love it. They eat it up. And then after a while, they're like, that was really great, but it could have been a little bit better. And they move on, or they go back to the original, and they're like, yeah, that new thing you're doing, it's interesting. I kind of like the original instead. And then you lose them.
Yep.
Writing for purpose. That, again, would save them so much of a headache.
Yep. Grass isn't greener on the other side all the time, You may think you want stuff, but when you see it, because I'll tell you, I'll be honest, and I've said this too with some of the Trek people, like over Mark D with a C, and I mean, I may be wrong, people may disagree, but I'll be honest. I thought I would love live action and all the Star Wars you can get. I don't think Star Wars is meant to be a television series. I don't think it's meant to be live action in terms of a weekly series or something you can binge watch in a month, I don't think it translates like Star Trek to an episodic adventure. I think that it's more of a movie theater thing. And my point being is, I went and saw Mandalorian and Grogu. I was not going to. But when I walked in, first thing in the first 30 seconds, I'm sitting there thinking the way they brought it in, I'm thinking, this should be a Boba Fett movie. Bad, tough hombre going in, but and I think that it held better as a movie for me, watching it over the course of 2 hours. Had it been broken up, having to wait each week for it, I wouldn't have enjoyed it broken up like that, because I'd like to just get to the end of the story, tell the story, be done with it. And whereas Star Trek is really recognized as great episodic television, and their stories and their plots lended themselves to that 55 minute time slot. But at least I notice that's the feeling I have on it based on what recent observations with stuff.
Indeed. Episodic, I think, could have worked for Star Wars, but they would have had to be very careful. They can't just churn things out. They have to make it meaningful. There has to be a reason. George Lucas actually had a lot of scenes that he would add in, and people are like, wow, he did that for the fans. No, he did it because there was a story that was going on. He would rarely add in something without that purpose behind the scenes, even if it wasn't immediately recognizable to people. Whereas Disney is the opposite. They think something's cool, let's just add it in there. And one of those things has been with the Book of Fett. There was so much story they could have added in, and instead they just had mindless action sequences.
The best for squad.
Yeah. They just introduced something just to have it destroyed. And it's like, well, that was visually interesting. Did it change anything? No, it didn't change anything at all. Then why did you do it? Why did you spend the massive fortune to make that sequence if it served no purpose? It really aggravates me, because every time lightsabers got turned on, for example, in the original films, there was a reason. Somebody was going to get hurt. Somebody was going to there was some villain that had to be stopped. Disney is like, turn on the lightsabers because we haven't had one turned on in this episode. Okay, did they do anything with it? No, they just kind of look at it. Well, Luke Skywalker did that too. He was introduced to a brand new weapon he'd never seen before. So he's like, oh, that's interesting. And then he never does it again.
Yep. Well, let me say hello to Darius Stone over on the Twitch side. Hello. Welcome in. Hey, listen, I'm streaming on both sides, so whatever you prefer. I have people that prefer Twitch side. And look, I know that if you do Twitch, please do Twitch. I'm going to bring up the comments as I see them. I just saw you here. Just welcome in if it's the first time. But yeah, I do both. You can comment wherever you want to. If you don't want to, if you prefer Twitch, Twitch is fine. If you prefer the YouTube, the thing is on the YouTube side, there are more people there watching. So you're more likely to engage in chats with the chat itself. But no, as a streamer, as a host myself, whatever form you want to come into, we'll bring up your comments and questions as they fit in, as we see. And thank you for being here, though. We appreciate you being here. So if you got any questions or thoughts on this, go ahead, and I will bring them up as I feel. I'm not bringing up every comment on the Twitch side, on the YouTube side tonight, because there's so many comments going there. Just trying to get the ones that are relevant. But again, it's up to you. But thank you for being here, Darius Stone. Appreciate it. And folks, make sure you hit the like and subscribe on the YouTube side. Share it out if you don't mind. On the Twitch side, make sure we'd appreciate a follow. We do different things. We're so random, it's funny. But again, thank you. Nice to have you here. And Stunning said George settled with the EU Easter eggs. He implemented the prequels, but remained completely focused on the main story. That's the weird thing is you can get so distracted with Easter eggs and member berries and stuff, you forget the story.
Indeed,
okay, and they came in here at Too Lonely. Hey, Bath 19. Hey, fine. Hey, welcome. We appreciate you on whichever side you like to. Welcome in. You can find a lot of people in here. They'll engage you in a lot of conversation. And I understand it lonely on that Twitch side. We try to get people on the Twitch side, but most of my followers are over here on the YouTube. But we're great to have you. Enjoy your time. But look forward to your comments with this discussion. And engage everybody. People will engage you over here, that's for sure, with this chat. But thank you for being here. All right, Jeff. What's up? Where do you want to go now with this in this direction?
So there's two more areas here with the fan service that takes place. The other one is one that we're not going to spend a whole lot of time dwelling on, but this has become all consuming, and that is the romance. So early on, Disney started getting people making requests for Raylo.
Yep.
And people were like, this has to happen. It needs to happen for us to be happy. And Disney really did take that seriously. And early on, they started saying, no, it's not going to happen. Then suddenly, that's the entire plot line. Yep. It becomes all consuming. And same thing with the Alkalite. It became all consuming. So even though I don't even want to address it necessarily, it has become such a big part of the story. And fans really do impact things. And because they have a brand new fan base, this has become a major part of their fan service moving forward. And I dare say, you're probably going to see even more of it unless they change course. It's weird to even mention it because back in the day, if you said, what is the best aspects of Star Wars, you would not see romance as being on that list. You would have heard action sequences. It was the plot. It was the characters. And then suddenly we have this. It's like, wow, how Star Wars has changed. But then there's the last one. And this is the one you're going to see dominate Star Wars moving forward. The childishness. Are you a fan of the Minions?
Oh, love them. Love them.
They are hilarious.
They're wonderful. Yeah.
But there's one thing that I have a big problem with. And it has to do with the banana references. It was an interesting gag to begin with, but it has become all-consuming to the point of where minion language or banana language is everywhere. Oh wait,
Yeah, it is. Jeez.
But when you have a character that's all consumed with something like that, it's kind of like playing peekaboo with a child.
Yeah.
It works the first time around, and then over and over and over again for the child, but not for the adult. Star Wars is made for adults primarily. Well, actually, the whole family, but primarily it's made with deep philosophical, theological concepts. And that just doesn't favor childishness.
I agree. To your point, Star Wars, 1977, watched it with my parents and my grandparents. It was all those generations from 7 up to whatever watched the movie. They're entertained. But it did not have the childishness. It didn't. I mean, there was a little nod of a humor barely at a couple of scenes, but it wasn't like nowadays where they fly now, they fly. Or what's even this about the Imperial Stormtroopers, original movie, the markings on the black Jawa sandcrawler, too precise to be sand people, only Imperial Stormtroopers. But what we have now, the Stormtroopers can't shoot at anything 2 feet in front of them. And it's gone so far, it's like an element of childishness. Yeah, if you follow what I'm saying is, it's like the banana overused in Minions, but that's part of what the Minions are. But they make the Stormtroopers just completely incompetent.
Exactly. If you look back at the original trilogy, which people will say was, oh, well, they were bad even back then. No, they weren't. I mean, if you look around, there's a lot of carnage that they're causing. And so it is deeply frustrating to see this childishness work its way into the franchise. And Grogu is such a big problem because, well, he's a character that's given the ability to make huge decisions, and he's treated like he's an adult, but he's also a baby simultaneously.
Right.
And it's like, all right, Grogu, you're going to have to choose your path. Are you going to be a Mandalorian, or are you going to be a Jedi, or are you going to be a bounty hunter? And Grogu's like, I want to be them all at once. But yet he still can't speak, and looks like he probably has a diaper that needs to be changed.
Yeah. See, I think you could have some. Bath Time 1989 says, to be fair, Star Wars over this point is a coming age story, 12, 16-year-old boys. Basically, the definition does need some childness in order to move to adulthood. And I can see that. And I agree. We got some of that in the Phantom Menace with Anakin, doing the pod racing.
You have characters like Jar Jar. You have even C-3PO is technically in that category.
Yeah,
but they all have their limits.
Right. The point is not being over seriousness, that they have the limits, because like Buddy is saying, with the Minions are just even too much for him. And that's the point of it, is the insanity, craziness with the bananas and everything else. And then he said Scrat and Ice Age was about right. Something funny and memorable every once in a while throughout a film, but not the focus or deviation to the plot and theme, which goes back to my point about the Stormtroopers, because basically it's, how do you take the plot seriously when you're supposed to expect these to be the Imperials' crack troops on Endor, and yet they can't shoot anything 2 feet in front of them. And the trilogy series has just actually expanded that and made it worse, because every Stormtrooper is incompetent. You look at the Jedi, the Last Jedi in the Snoke throne room. The lightsaber fights were so bad, choreographed so bad. There's no way Rey would have survived. I mean, against that many trained lightsaber guards there, and Rey Kylo might have probably, but the point is that it just limits, and if you're not too careful, why should we ever respect the Stormtroopers anymore? Because even the Mandalorian's done it now to the point where they can never take out one of the good guys. You'd think they'd get lucky and hit somebody at some point.
when they did the sequence when they were
Yeah. Let me hit this real
shooting at the
quick.
rock. Be sure.
Let me hit this real quick. I agree with this very much. That this is it's the hero's journey. Lucas said that, and that's why I know you're coming in a little bit late. I have always contended that to me the Skywalker story, the Skywalker bloodline is Star Wars, and anything off of that because it is the hero's journey, not just one. It's Anakin's, then Luke's, and then in the extended universe and the comics, you get the Cade Skywalker in the future. It's about the bloodline, and each one of them taking a hero's journey, but going from boy to man. And what we talked about, good moral stories and stuff like two at the core. That's what we had. That's what it was at one point, until now. It's mixed up with Rey, Palpatine, and all the other stuff that it's gone into, and now you got the Grogu problem.
Yep. And Grogu was just like with all the other things that Disney has introduced, it was designed to bring in a new audience. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you the number of women that I have met that are like, oh, I love Grogu. Oh, I hate Star Wars, but I love Grogu. And they will buy his merch everywhere. It is the most baffling sort of thing. It's like they don't care about Star Wars, but they love Grogu.
Can we hit something real quick before we get further into Grogu? Because I just saw these comments I'm getting. I like some of these comments too. Stunning compared the sequel trilogy to even the expanded universe. Rey and Kylo actively tried to kill or assault one another mentally and physically. Now, Mara and Luke. Mara was an Emperor's hand, so she was coming after Luke, but Luke won her over with kindness, respect, and understanding, which led them to becoming a genuinely great team and actually a married couple that produced Ben Skywalker. I love this line too. This is why I'm a Jedi, like a father before me. This is, in my opinion, the greatest line in cinema. Resolution with the father and understanding your role in society as a man. So, yeah. And see, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was contrasted with the stormtroopers killing the adopted family and is the danger of the actual world that needs to be changed. Modern Star Wars and never do that. Yeah. And I tell you, that scene on Tatooine with the Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen was traumatic. I mean, for that time of day, that back in the 70s, and especially being a PG movie for kids involved in all that was really challenging for the time. Nowadays we don't blink an eye at it. But all right, so let's continue with the Grogu problem now, because this is I'm curious to know why you think this is a problem, to hear how you develop it on this, because I can see why he could be a problem, but or is he just a gag? But let you go ahead and we'll see where we go from here.
When Grogu first came onto the scene, it was actually quite fascinating. There was a lot of people that it really did catch them by surprise. They did not expect to see a baby Yoda. And it was like, why would they be so desperate to get this pod? And then suddenly, oh, it's a very sensitive Force creature. Oh, that explains why they were so desperate to get it. And it made a lot of sense. Until you start hearing his backstory. And then you start thinking, wait a minute, why did you have this character at all? Because it started to introduce problems. While Grogu has a lot of fans, he was not made for fans. He was made for merch. He was made for sales. He was basically supposed to be the Pikachu of the Star Wars world. He was going to be a mascot. What I view as the potential of what he could have been was things like, if he was going to be a teenager, it would have made a lot more sense. He would have thus, logically speaking, would have fit the age range that Grogu should have been. And what's more, you could have also introduced all these deep subjects that he would have to wrestle with, that they've been putting onto a baby, but they can't have the baby respond. But if they put it onto an actual character, it would have made a lot more sense. Somebody who could have responded, dialogued. And if he was a teenager in that species, time frame, it would have made the character have a lot of weight. He could have actually talked back to Mando, and then you would see the conflict of why he can't be a Jedi, because Luke would see it and say, there's conflict in you. If you're looking at a baby saying, I sense a lot of anger and conflict in you, the baby doesn't care. The baby just wants to eat something. But a teenager,
that baby liked eating the frog eggs and stuff. So
no respect for life, apparently. That's kind of a Sith sort of action there.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that he could have been a really good character if he was a teenager. You can definitely have a baby Yoda with you, but have it like the sibling, and that would have made a lot more sense. Then you could have the best of both worlds.
What's interesting, you point out the characters made for merchandise, which it was, but you remember though they didn't produce enough of it in the early days. There was they were running on shortages. Everybody wanted it. And by the time they could get the supply up, it's almost like Baby Grogu, Baby Yoda, mania passed or had really settled down quite a lot. But hey, you can still, at least the good news is if you're a Ray fan, you can find many items on the shelves at Ollie's Discount Bargain Outlet.
Indeed. But I can't stress this part enough, because this was an opportunity that Disney squandered, because there's a lot of great sequences that they suddenly lost that weight because it was a baby. Sure, you want to have the people that you're trying to target with it. You want to have little baby Yoda, yes, but you need that character to carry on the deep storylines that Star Wars lends itself to. So thus, we can now break down Disney Star Wars. It will be a little easy. But Disney does have kind of that weird look on their face of we don't get what's wrong with this. Why does everyone have an issue with it? Well, I'll tell you why we have an issue with it. It's because Disney Star Wars is treated episodically. It has absolutely no greater connection. And when it does have connection, it makes absolutely no sense. Did you watch all the Mandalorian episodes, or did you kind of cut off at some point?
I cut off. Actually, I watched, I think, all of season 1. I watched parts of season 2, including the last episode. But after that, I didn't. I did watch the recent movie, and the film. No, Baby Yoda is actually Grogu. It's not Yoda. It's it really is Baby Grogu. From the character, different than Yoda. But Ray Palpatine does not sell. Yes, we know that. But no, I like I said, I have trouble watching a show every week. I either binge it, or I don't do weekly shows like that. I did with the last season, but generally I don't. That's rare. But I did, like I said earlier, though, having or watching the Mandalorian movie, I preferred it. I got into it. I liked it better being able to watch it all at once in a movie versus having to sit there and wait for it, or to have to binge watch it at the end.
Well, one of the things that takes place in The Mandalorian is that it was designed to be that you could start at any point and pick up. It didn't matter. You missed last week's episode? Yeah, that doesn't really affect anything. Oh, but it will. Oh, no. It will affect the following episode. And then you watch the following episode, and they just dropped it. It served no purpose whatsoever. Oh, you better watch this series because you're not going to have any idea with what's going on if you skip it. And then you skip it, and the people that watch it have absolutely no difference of the people that did. And that happened enough with The Mandalorian and the Book of Fett that I was like, they really do have people that are writing this separate from the others.
Well,
they
even
have
Marvel,
no consistency.
Look at the Marvel universe. They were like, well, watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or this, that, all these things that you got to watch to do homework. And to keep up with it. And it's like not everybody has that kind of time. So Bad Time said, I didn't mind the Book of Boba Fett. To be honest, I quite like the trope, but only watched the first 2 seasons of Mando and then got bored. Yep. So I think it's pretty universal. Third season's bad.
There's good elements that they could have really leaned on and used well, but so many of them were thrown aside or were swapped out in favor of Filoni lore. He did so many callbacks to things he did in the TV shows, and none of it really connected with the movies. Mandalorians are his creation. He really wanted them to be like the non-force wielding Jedi. They had the same sort of code. They had an attire that they had to stick to. They had special weapons. Everything was designed to be replacement Jedi. And even down to something like the Darksaber. Oh, this Darksaber is like super important to us. And our armor has the ability to deflect lightsabers as well. Well, sure, your armor has the ability to stop lightsabers. Go tell that to Jango Fett. That didn't go so well for him.
Yeah, he lost his head over it.
Yep. But if you look at the original take of it, he gets cut up actually a bit, and then he gets his head cut off. So it's like his armor didn't protect him from anything. So they're stressing about trying to make these characters special, but in the end, it's all about Filoni trying to change the direction of Star Wars. Each of these elements don't fit in the world of the movies, but they do fit in terms of his own TV shows and creations. So we have him as the main reason why these episodes kind of don't fit very well. Even things like if you see in the bottom right, you see these monsters, these monstrous baby creatures that they find. And they bring them back and they're like, well, you brought back these
you brought back these special characters. We better turn them into Mandalorians. That's the only way that they can be able to have new purpose.
And then the little baby creature's like, yeah, we're going to be Mandalorians. Okay, they didn't say that, but just about that. It's like, you're going to bring them in, and what are you going to turn them into?
They're going to be foundlings, and they will be treated like one of us.
So, in other words, you're just trying to say that anybody can be a Mandalorian. Oh, I've heard that trope before. Anyone can be a Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so now you have these monsters. Great. Now they're going to be foundlings. So it's things like that. There's like, none of it makes sense. And then you never hear about them again.
Yep.
Dumb stuff.
Yep.
Book of Fett wasn't much better. I did like a lot of the elements, but it was hilarious because in the end, Fett contradicts himself so much. It was hilarious. I was joking with my brother that it's like every time he shows up, he's like, I'm the nicest bad guy you're ever going to meet. I don't show mercy except when I do. I'm going to rule Tatooine with an iron fist, but also with love and kindness. Fear me. Don't fear me. Why do you look so confused? There was a moment where he did almost exactly this. And I was like, have you guys... Obviously, the actor doesn't want to be the big bad guy. It was very obvious. He did not want to be a big bad villain. You could have found a middle ground. You could have made his story so meaningful. And all the stuff that George Lucas originally set up for the character, they just threw out the window in favor of Filoni's backstory. Right. I was really looking forward to this character because the original film series was hinting that he was the last of the Mandalorians.
Yes.
Hinting at it. Didn't come out and say it directly, but he was going to be the last in terms of Jango Fett being the last. Right. Jedi are like, what's a Mandalorian doing here? Oh, these people are dangerous. You're choosing a warrior race to be cloned? That should have been like a dead giveaway.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing that I know was watching the Mandalorian movie, Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie. the first 10 minutes, I'm like, this should have been a Boba Fett movie. It was kick butt, take names, and just, I mean, it was just that was the very first impression I got out of it. It wasn't somebody like this. I mean, even Tamara Morrison was quoted as saying, like even Mark Hamill said, they tried to warn people, they tried to say stuff, but just shoot away. Just shoot away.
They cut Boba Fett at the knees just to elevate side characters. And it was so humiliating. It's like every time you turned around, Boba Fett is getting himself in trouble. Someone else has to pull him out of it.
And that's wrong. That's wrong, because really what happened, like in the Sarlacc pit, that happened, it just gets, it was a chaotic fight situation, but Boba Fett was too smart to get into a lot of that stuff. And then to just randomly get put in, it's, you water down and ruin a great character.
Precisely. Well, it didn't go much better for the Alkalite, which I did not see, but I saw enough of it that I was like, yeah, I'm not going to even touch this one. But it is very guilty of destroying lore elements and twisting it. It does some of the biggest changes to the franchise that any of the series has done. And the people that made it admitted on camera that they actually did intend for it to be as as jarring as they could make it. Well, that's one way to put it. They lore baited people with characters that people have been wanting to see for a long time, but then they don't really do anything with it. They then twist the original story to favor a more liberal worldview, and you can tell it's very, very blatant.
I'm sorry, Buddy said even I didn't watch Alkali. And Buddy's one of those kids, he'll watch everything too. But and stunning. I do remember when Jaina learned from Boba Fett how to fight a Jedi. Exactly. I do see that. So yes, Jango should have been made with Beskar either also. But
in this show, they introduce a metal that turns lightsabers off. Imagine that.
Then,
you have a weapon which is turned into a helmet, and the helmet turns off people's lightsaber. Wow, that's dangerous. You have a force wielder with a lightsaber. He turns off your lightsaber. Why is it a helmet? And why is it not a rod? You hit it with a rod, and then their lightsaber turns off, and then you stab them with your actual lightsaber. Do you realize how overpowered that would be?
Oh, yeah.
But you have things like that, things that break logic so badly that it's like,
well, yeah, but are you going to bring up Kenobi?
Yes, we are going to bring up Kenobi.
Okay, well, I'll save this comment then. Yes, okay. I think this scene is right down here at the bottom. Yeah, one of the worst things bad times. This whole fence, look at it. Why don't you walk up the hill and around it?
So there is a way you could have done that very easily. You could have had it a force field. They've done that in Star Wars. You had it in Episode 5, Episode 1. There were areas in Episode 6. That's the whole plot line. Turn off the force field. You don't see the force field. It's invisible.
Well, in this case, you could walk around. But it's even worse. This one, you could have walked up the hill around it.
But if it was a force field, then you wouldn't have been able to. But they could have hinted at that. Obi-Wan could have just thrown a pebble and see it get vaporized. And it's like, that's why we don't go around. You could have solved it all, but they didn't, which is very curious. So you could have made a lot of things about Kenobi work, but the whole premise of why they wanted to make it was wrong. Because Kenobi wasn't about trying to show how he became wise and basically created a brand new order through Luke. He, in a way, he was becoming his master of Qui-Gon Jinn. The order was dead, and he's trying to rediscover it. And so this was a great opportunity for that. But instead, it had to be, no, we have to have another fight with Darth Vader. We have to have him facing the Inquisitors that are hunting for him. Well, you know why they're hunting for him? Because Order 66 failed. and all these Jedi escaped. So because you broke that lore, now you have to have all these Inquisitors going around the galaxy hunting for Jedi. An easy way to solve this, there's just 2 Jedi. And then you don't have the Inquisitors showing up. It would have been completely pointless for the Sith to send them out, other than to just scout. It's like, we know Obi-Wan's somewhere out here. Find him. That's all you had to do. But instead, because Order 66 failed, you get shows like this that really keeps the concept of everybody basically survived Order 66. Even the villain was once at Order 66 and survived. It was like, great, more Force users everywhere. The rule of 2, the Force is balanced. There's now 2 Jedi and 2 Sith. Things are balanced.
Yeah, but exactly. If they had walls on 2 sides, but yeah, you could have walked up that hill. Exactly. But yeah, and it just, it's good to have, like Bad Time said, it's good to have characters that are broken. That's part of the journey to get out of that. But it's, even Bad Time does not like how that show went. And I will say that's one that I did not get into, because apparently it sounded like the Princess Leia show also. And 2, the whole point was to sit there and watch over Luke, not sit here and call, this one ended up being more about Leia than it was about Luke. So he's all planet running around. I didn't see enough of it to know what happened, but it just all I know is seeing little Leia running around was kind of weird.
It was bad.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way. It recolored it as much as the Alkalite. Not as much, but it changed the original narrative. The Alkalite changed the morality and the philosophy. Obi-Wan changed the entire arc of plots.
Yeah.
And it was super frustrating to see what could have been one of their best products. They could have made a 3-part movie series off of him, and they didn't. And it was because the original concepts that I heard teased never got explored. Instead, they went with this, which is just basically he was the convenient excuse to introduce new characters. That's all it was.
Yep.
Now, this show, Ahsoka, had potential. And in fact, the after I saw it, the more I was like, they robbed Star Wars of one of the best possible story arcs that they'd done to date. And they threw it away. Why? Because they wanted to have Ahsoka as the main lead. They should not have done that. They ruined their story by choosing to focus on Ahsoka for a plot line that basically would have created a brand new threat that would have changed everything moving forward. It would have impacted Luke. It would have impacted the Mandalorian. It would have impacted the New Republic. Everything was going to be changed because they introduced Thrawn. This should have been the Thrawn series in that sense. Yep. Yes, you don't introduce him immediately. You tease him. But you had to make everything about that, and they didn't. They made it instead about the petty bitterness between Ahsoka and her apprentice. So much of that revolved around was what the story revolved around, and it made no sense.
Yep, it didn't. I watched it with a watch channel, party watch channel. I was like, thank God I did that. I couldn't have made it through it. So
there was moments like with Anakin that I was like, this is humiliating. There was things like with getting stabbed with lightsabers, like this is ridiculous. And then there were things like, okay, how many Jedi again survived Order 66? They seem to be everywhere. Some of the best elements were just thrown away because of who knows why. They were like, we're trying to cram 2 series together, and we don't have enough time to explore some of these characters. So even if there's a good element, we're not going to explore it. And it was so very frustrating because not all ideas are good ideas. And when you're a story writer, you have to have a good idea that makes sense. And if you focus on the bad ones, you've just, not only have you made something that's bad, you robbed the audience from seeing something that was good that could have been great. The zombie stormtroopers. That is a fan idea that existed back in the late 90s, I think, was the first time I heard about it.
There was also a novel. There's also a novel involving, so it's.
Mm-hmm. But as I remember, it never became canon. People were joking about it, like, what if it did become canon? Now it's canon. Congratulations, folks. You got what you wanted. We now have zombie troopers. Oh, well, that's so cool. That's amazing. No, what you've done is you've robbed the villains of their real power. They're not monsters, and now they are. Yep. They were cunning and smart. Now they're just mindless drones.
Mindless drones, yep.
Thrawn represented something that was perfect for the sequel trilogy, something that they threw away. He was the Grand Moff's revenge against the New Republic. The Moffs were who could have made a real threat. They could have made the First Order. They could have rekindled the Empire because they were technically still in charge. The Sith are gone. Well, now the Grand Moffs take over. And he was like the representation of what could have happened. And now he's just a Grand Moff in charge of a bunch of dead characters. Whoop-de-doo. Generic super
That's
villain.
about it. Absolutely. Jeff, this is fun. This is neat.
And this is our last frame here.
Okay.
And that is the never-ending lore. Because just like how you kind of were like, I'm kind of tuning out on some of the stuff, everyone starts to tune out at some point. And this probably is a good slide to end on, because otherwise, you don't know. The number of people are watching, they could say like, yeah, it's time to tune out. This is a good one to end on, because when you have these things happen, it becomes so overwhelming that you're just like, enough.
Yeah, information overload. How do I process? Especially if I watch something and I'm like, this is stupid. Well, am I sitting here watching it? And then, yeah, exactly. Limited time in the day. And no, I absolutely understand.
When you have that, you also rob people of great characters like Ezra. He was like the perfect idea of a traditional, original Force user. He's rejected lightsabers. He's a true Force user monk, you could say. And they robbed him of an interesting character arc because they were doing Ahsoka. But the lore has become so complex that now you're like, wait, who's Ezra? And I had to ask a question, like, who is this guy? And I had to be told by another guy, like, who he is and why he mattered. It's like, why couldn't they just put that at the start of the episode so I can understand? But they didn't. So it's gotten too complex. And just like this presentation, it's gotten too complex. So that is where I will conclude my presentation for today.
Hey, and we've caught up on all the chats, all the questions. You got any other thoughts what Jeff's talked about? Let's go ahead and take it now before we wrap up. But we'll go, if the questions, we'll go a little bit further. But it's just, all this makes sense. At some point, the older people, the less normies will check out, and then the newbies will come in. They like it, but that's the problem you got. You got a lot. Some don't like it. Some that don't like it. Unfortunately, it seems like those that don't like it are numerous. Probably number more than those that are for it. Yeah, Buddy said
all this could have been solved if you just did good storytelling.
Yes, exactly. At the end of 19, and he was 19 at the end of Rebels and was short. Now he's a tall and a space hippie. Yep. A lack of attention to detail, and that's what it is, Just like I said, though, you could actually not do enough edits, not enough originality, and it could still be a bad story.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Well, folks, unless we have any other comments, we're caught up to pretty good. Jeff, any other thing that you want to talk about tonight?
I think we're good for right now, man. There's I didn't know how long it would take to get to this point, so there was technically yet again even more slides, but you know what? That's probably for the best that they didn't get covered for today, because that would have sparked another huge discussion point.
Well, what we'll do is
gone over how to fix the problems.
Well, and I think we talked about doing that too at some point, and we need to do that. So we'll probably we'll have to work on getting a third part down the road in a bit. But hey, you know, it's great discussion, great time. Thank you everybody for all your participation in here and all that. Let's see. Okay, back time. See you folks. If we'll talk a little bit longer now that Jeff's through the presentation, you know, we can take some of these things a little bit better. I didn't want to interrupt this flow, but bad time saying I'm probably the only person that enjoyed Solo. But do you think it's a failure? Combined with it being a lighthearted coming of age story, adventure still influencing modern Star Wars. I did not hate Solo. I actually thought Solo was not too bad. There's no way he could be Han Solo. Just the actor, and that's not a fault of his. But I thought the movie was okay. But he is mostly not a fan of Solo. Well, I will tell you, I liked the movie. It was not the worst thing I've seen. I appreciated it. I liked some of the stuff. Although the name Solo, how he got his name and stuff were kind of corny and things with it. My problem with the movie, when I lost, well, we know it's a failure because of it followed Last Jedi, but what I really hated was when they showed Darth Maul as a leader of a crime syndicate, and then he showed his red lightsabers, his double-bladed red lightsaber. That's when I lost it. Like, come on.
You can't escape him.
It really is bad enough to see him supposedly somehow surviving in Rebel Zone, but now in the live screen of I'm just sitting like, I started talking out loud. Exactly. Jess is right here. Get here. I hated it. When Maul popped up, that did everything. I liked the movie. I was actually not opposed to it. I thought it was a decent story. Like you said, the adventure, the quest, in that. But when Maul showed up, I lost it. I started talking out loud. My kid was laughing at first. My kid was like, "Dad, you got to be quiet." I'm like, "What? There's only like 3 people down in front of us, like 5 rows, and maybe 2 or 3 behind us in a huge theater." But I lost it when Maul. If they didn't have Maul, had they made what's her name? Who was the female character that was? I don't remember her name. I know her face. Oh, Emilia Clarke. And that female character, had they made her the leader of the crime syndicate, I would have been okay with it. But when Khaleesi, I think that was the name, but it was played by Emilia Clarke. I was good with her leading it. I was good with everything. If somebody else was leading it, but when Darth Maul showed up, I was done. I checked out, which goes to the biggest debate. I like Darth Maul as a character. He was good, but when he died once and for all. There's no no. Jeff will tell you. Jeff created memes like everybody else did about me and Maul, but Solo. But Jeff, did you see Solo?
I did not. When I saw what the first reviews were coming out, I was like, yeah. I'm not.
Well, I did.
Like when I got familiar enough with the plot line that I was like, that changes way too much. And so I just checked out at that point.
Well, I kind of just went because it was Star Wars. I really did. But I wanted to see what it was like for myself, because I'm a big believer of watching stuff for yourself. Akira. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's the name. But I enjoyed the and I do too. We like hope and fun in our stories. We do. It gives that positivity. Like you said, we don't want the evil, and it's a sign of bad storytelling. But I just, no, I thought Solo was credible. I thought Solo was a good product for its time. Not the best, but how do you save a movie that had another director and Ron Howard had to come in? Opie had to come in to save the day. No, and
Indeed.
Mall is not like bottles of beer on the wall.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, did you see the person that was cosplaying as Han Solo? He looked exactly like him and sounded like him. He was overlooked because he didn't have enough star power.
Wow. Yep. Hey.
When I saw that, I was like, oh great. They missed such an opportunity. Because then they would have probably gotten even more people into the seats just because he would have looked and sounded so much like him.
Yeah. Buddy liked Tobias back in his impact on Han, but you just can't take Woody Harrelson in that role. Look, that's the way I felt about the new Midway movie back in 2019 was he's growing on me. He did a good job with the role, but Admiral Nimitz and Woody Harrelson, I don't think so. I just couldn't get a hold. But yes, Bad Time Like Glover's Lando. Yeah, but that was the biggest thing is it was a good movie. I just didn't like Darth Maul there. So, oh my gosh.
Well, that's why
when I
look at a lot of these,
they got to say, does Tom Cruise movie count? Mission Impossible. So, Bad Time. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
A lot of actors and in a movie like Solo or any of the series like Alkalite, people look at that stuff and they're like, I don't like it, but I don't know why. And so hopefully based upon how the stream went today, you get a better idea of some of the elements that are like, when you see it and you're like, I don't know why I don't like it. Maybe you'll get some ideas like, it was that irritated me. That's why I keep going back to narrative. If they could have made Solo even better, if they just chose to lean into the narrative in a much better way. But all their writers are gone. It's been left to be a void, and it's very hard for them to try and find good stories to really work with. And they might have to go back to books at this point because the books at least were written years ago. And at least they have a little bit more consistency than what they've been doing.
Yep. All right. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it up here tonight. We're at where we made it 2.5 hours, Jeff. Do you want to tell everybody what you got going on with your channel? And one of you guys, Jess, if you can get me, or one of y'all get me Jeff's link so I can promote it. Before we do that, will say here again, back to the first episode we did of this, The Death of Storytelling. That is the link. Go check out our first one if you missed it. And Jess, if you can give me Jeff's
link. It was a lot
link.
more consolidated too. So it
was. But see, we knew that though. We knew that when we got into Disney, it was going to be a lot more scattered. It's going to be a lot more of the place. And like you said, there's still the other things we haven't touched either.
Yeah, there's so much with the Star Wars genre to have to cover. By the way, folks, if you like storytelling, that's one of the things that I do lean into. I ramble a lot, and so I got stories galore to be able to tell you. And usually they happen in late night for folks, just because of the time zone that I'm in. So many people will tune in, and they've said this beforehand that they tune in just to fall asleep. And so, but we do cover
you got one
things
of those
like
voices
this.
that puts you got one of those smooth jazz voices like our AI said that one week.
Yes, indeed. But telling stories is a big part of what the channel is about. There's a lot of art. There is discussions about anything and everything. We've done a lot of Fortnite over the last couple of weeks, but it's probably going to be waning a little bit on stuff moving forward. And then of course, trying to write my own stories to hopefully publish one day. But we will have to wait and see if that actually pans out. So I can talk a big game about how to tell a story. Until I've actually published one, though,
Absolutely.
don't really have much credibility.
Right. Well, I'll try to watch The Searchers. I think I definitely have heard about that old Western. So, but yeah. All right. Well, Jeff, make sure you like Jeff's channel. Go there, subscribe to his channel with the link that's there. In terms of my channel, tomorrow night we'll be live at 9:00 with the squirrel streams, all kind of random stuff that'll happen. We'll have time we make it up as we go along, and it's always a fun adventure if you've not been to one of those before. Of course, next Tuesday will be more sports. We're talking the World Cup. And then Wednesday, maybe with my wife on a stream that we do, or we will wait and see what happens next week. Things are a little bit fluid and some things. Yeah, Jeff.
By the way, want to thank you again for allowing me to come over and talk about this again, because it's one thing for me to just ramble about it. It's another thing to try and do a presentation on it. So it forces me to have to put the stuff into text and trying to get like visuals with it. It helps to consolidate it in a way, and that doesn't happen unless other people kind of want that to happen. And so much appreciated for giving me of your time and your patience for stuff like this.
Absolutely. We'll do more of it. Love it. Love when you come on even on Saturday nights with us. What the World Cup thing you speak of. Yes, exactly. All right, folks. Well, we're going to say goodnight again tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Join me for that. Also, like, subscribe. When you found our channel, please, if you have not liked the video, please do. If you're not subscribed to my channel on YouTube, please do. If you're on YouTube, please follow me over there too, because we do on both sides of the aisle, like Jess says right there. So she's on the Twitch side. And good night, Stunning. Good night, everybody. Well, we've officially made it 2 hours, 37 minutes on the dot. So as Buddy said, good night and have a blessed weekend, everyone. And everybody have a great night. We will talk to you next time. Bye, all.
Have a wonderful